Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tyler's Tire Talk. So this episode is going to be a little different from the rest. I have a guest. Say hi, guest.
Dude, hello, I'm excited to be here.
All right, so we got one of my good friends, Josh Clark, on. He's been wanting to come on the podcast for a while because I'm just so cool and famous. But so we're gonna start with this statistic. Me and Josh both went to the Florida State game.
Oh my god.
Me and Josh did not sit by each other at the Florida State game. LSU lost the Florida State game. Me and Josh sat by each other for every home game. But Tennessee. LSU lost to Tennessee. After that, a few weeks later, when LSU went and played Alabama, me and Josh said, hey, we should probably sit by each other. And guess what? We did, we beat Alabama in overtime.
We won that game. Georgia game comes up, though.
No, fast forward to Texas A&M, which we didn't watch with each other. We lost. We lost the Georgia game. I mean, I'm just saying, the games me and Josh weren't with each other, we lost. So,
I'm saying,
no, go ahead.
In the Georgia game, we started Snapchatting, and when we did, we kind of started hitting too.
We kind of started popping off, especially when Nussmeier came in.
Oh my god!
That's when we started chatting, and really the freaking Nuss bus threw a bomb, and
crazy.
So we're gonna kind of be discussing a little bit of the Georgia game. I was not there. Josh was. Josh, how was it in Atlanta?
It sucked, going and watching my team lose, especially because the fans for Georgia were so loud and so obnoxious.
I agree, and it was I saw Stetson Bennett on the TV, and he probably is like all Georgia fans, like little shit. Like I saw him being cocky, and I'm like, dude, you're like, I'm pretty sure he's older than Joe Burrow, and he's like making it seem like he's the best college football player to ever live. I hate his cockiness. But,
I'll give it to him. He's probably the best walk-on ever. I mean,
that he's really good. Don't get me wrong. Good. He's really good. But if Joe Burrow came back to college football right now, like what would you expect Joe Burrow to do? He would go off.
It's true, yeah.
Yeah, Stetson Bennett has that age, but Georgia just dominated. They looked good. Their defense looked good.
Yeah.
Georgia, they struggled with Kentucky, and they had almost that near upset against Missouri, and they had games like that. Yeah. So that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for those games like that.
No, me too.
To give LSU some hope going in, but LSU's just game plan and especially on offense just didn't sit right, and Stetson Bennett and his tight ends and receivers just connected, and he was plus the run game. I mean, Texas A&M a few weeks previous ran all over LSU, and that was a weak point. And LSU losing some players, they're gaining some players, but hopefully we pick up some people in the offseason, and hopefully we able to start that at that bowl game. And we're gonna get to the bowl game versus Purdue, but I'll let Josh handle you. What do you want to talk about, Josh? You have some things for me?
Yeah, what you said about the rushing. Even in the Georgia game, we allowed 255 rushing yards and an average of 5.8 yards per attempt, which is insane. When they try to power inside, we usually did pretty good, but Georgia players and the Texas A&M, they were able to get on the outside and just have so much open space. It was an issue, but I think Matt House will have it together by next year, especially for that.
And this was the total opposite of the beginning of the season, because one thing I felt LSU did well was stop the run. It's in the beginning of the season, but you have a really good O-line, Georgia O-line, and their D-line was also pretty good. But their D-line, O-line, strongest part, almost the strongest part about their team, but their O-line just did exceptional against LSU. And you're also missing
Yeah.
players like Mason Smith, who probably would have made a big difference. But Georgia's O-line just, and like you said, they killed LSU on the outside. It's almost been LSU's story to get killed on the outside. You had screens that kill LSU, sweeps, runs, all kinds of stuff on the outside that killed LSU. If you remember, I know you remember that freaking screenplay. Tennessee ran a bunch against LSU, and they just couldn't stop it. It was just two wide receivers blocking and a wide receiver going out for a screen, and it killed LSU each and every time. So
and it wasn't really prevalent until we hit these big games. I feel like it wasn't as noticeable in these games that were important, but every single game that just became important for us, we just couldn't stop it.
yeah, and you're also one thing that discourages you. You have a chance to make the playoffs if you beat Texas A&M and then also beat Georgia. You lose to Texas A&M, which is very discouraging. Not only do you lose, but you lose bad to Texas A&M.
Yeah.
A team that was 4-7 at the time.
Yeah, I believe that's what they were.
And that can be discouraging to any team. And don't get me wrong, Texas A&M has a lot of talent, but they shouldn't have beat LSU. They just got out coached and kind of outgunned. And LSU's fallen apart towards the end of the season. And but you got a lot of things going right. You still have a winning season. After the Florida State game, and I don't think people realize this, most people didn't have a good outlook on the season.
No, not at all.
Yeah, like including me, I was like, okay, this is going to be a rough season. LSU just can't get it together. You lose to Florida State. And even throughout when we were winning, when we're coming back against teams like Mississippi State and Auburn and stuff like that, I was still very worried for this team. And they got it together against Florida, and then they got it together against Ole Miss, and they had a hard fought game against Alabama, and it just all fell apart from there. You went to Arkansas. You only beat Arkansas by 13 points. Granted, you ran most of the game, but you couldn't really get it going on offense.
Oh yeah, the Arkansas game was definitely like the start of the downfall for us, I feel like.
Yeah, and then you go to Texas A&M, you lose bad. You go to Atlanta, play in the SEC, and it's really not a close game. But there was some positives to come out that SEC game, and I'll let you start first with the positives. If you found anything that kind of enlightened you and got you excited about the SEC game, even though you lost by 20 points. You want to?
Yeah, I'd say my biggest positive was probably just Garrett Nussmeier. He was great when he came in for Jaden. You know, it sucks Jaden Daniels got injured, and you hope he can play in the bowl game coming up. But if not, I think Garrett Nussmeier can win it for us. He was 15 for 27 with 294 yards. 2 touchdowns and interception. The interception was bad. It was a bad throw that he probably shouldn't have made. But if he can get things like that together, if he doesn't transfer, by the time Jaden Daniels is gone, I think Garrett Nussmeier will be an incredible starter for LSU.
So that's a good point you bring up. And he did that all in the second half, right?
Yes, I believe that was all in the second half.
So Jaden Daniels gets hurt in the second half. He was hurt going into that game.
Yeah.
Which makes me question should he been playing. Sorry, I can't speak. Should he been playing? Is that a sentence? Who cares?
Close enough.
Should Jaden Daniels have started that game in the first place? Is what I meant to say. You go in. He's got both of his ankles taped. He didn't do much running at all. And that's what makes him so dangerous. Is his running if he's not making accurate throws on the run or downfield or in the pocket, whatever. If he because unlike a lot of quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, if he doesn't see something open, or maybe he just doesn't want to make that throw, he can run and pick up 5, 6, sometimes 10 yards or the first down, or sometimes more. but that just makes him so dangerous. And he didn't have that going into the game. What Nussmeier has over Jaden Daniels is his ball power.
Yeah.
The speed that he throws the ball at is ridiculous. That first touchdown he threw, the cornerback was right on. Who was that who caught the touchdown pass to? Was that Jure?
Oh God, I want to say it was Jure. I believe so.
Look it up and make sure for me. If you can, if
Right.
not, it's fine. While I bring up this point, but that was to the right corner, close to the end zone, and he got that ball out extremely fast. And that's something even the commentators were talking about, is how accurate and fast he threw the ball to his receiver. That ball got out. It might have even been Brian Thomas. But
Is this the play where he scrambled around a little bit too?
I think this was the first drive he was in where we were like, we're down by so much. And he actually, at that point, he kind of gave us hope, but the defense just couldn't stay in line. I'm like, crap, he might, you still got most of the third quarter and the fourth quarter to come back. I mean, he could come back. Obviously, it didn't happen, but he was leading the team downfield. But he throws this incredibly fast ball to his receiver where the cornerback is pretty close to the receiver, but he's able to get that ball in time. And that's what I noticed through him, is he was pushing the ball downfield. Yeah. Yes, that can be dangerous sometimes. But just like you saw from a couple of games from Stetson Bennett, is he was pushing the ball downfield, and occasionally he would throw an interception, but that happens in football. That play was like the plays he was making. That's like you just brought up the scramble play towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
When that looked like a Joe Burrow play. Like
I agree.
I know there will never be a Joe Burrow. I get it, but that looked like a Heisman, like your Heisman Joe Burrow play. If you remember from 2019, also in the SEC championship, also against Georgia, Joe Burrow brought, like, I don't know if you remember this play, he broke like 3 tackles in the backfield.
Yeah.
The defensive lineman.
Heisman moment.
Yeah, that's what they call the Heisman moment. Nussmeier did something similar, threw it to the end zone for a touchdown, and I was like, wow. I was like, if he can do shit like that and continue to do that, I'd rather Nussmeier. And for most of the season, I said Jaden Daniels. But that game made me question, should we have Jaden Daniels in and let him use his legs and make the throws occasionally, or do you keep Nussmeier in, who will most of the time try to make a throw even though if it's incomplete, and occasionally a risky throw like an interception, but he pushes the ball downfield. Yeah. Something that Jaden hasn't done, and does this prove a point that without legs, Jaden Daniels isn't really dangerous? It could prove that too, because I'll give Jaden this towards the end of the first half. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. He was literally limping on that field and driving LSU downfield. But and then I think we got a field goal, and I think at that time it was like 28-10 or something.
It was bad the whole game. Yeah. That's all I know.
Were you able to find who he threw that touchdown to?
Yeah. That one I believe was to Malik Neighbors. The scramble was the one for Jure Jenkins.
Okay. So yeah. But he just looked good. I'll admit, I was just so mad and discouraged. At a certain point, I knew we weren't coming back, so I turned off. Yeah. So I didn't even see the interception that you were talking about. I didn't even know he threw an interception. I was just kind of discouraged, and I was like, I can't watch this. And then the freaking Saints lose. I don't know if it was the next day.
I know.
The Saints, we're going to keep on track and try to keep on track for LSU, but the Saints have been so freaking terrible. It's been so hard to watch, especially with the freaking. I haven't gotten my way about anything in the past 2 weeks. The Saints have lost 2 weeks in a row. LSU lost 2 weeks in a row. It's the
Dennis
freaking
Allen is not a head coach.
USA lost the World Cup, and no, Dennis Allen's terrible. You lose it, and you're not supposed to blame a loss on one player, but like there were so many times when Chris Olave could have made a catch and
Yep.
dropped his first ball of the season. Taysom Hill had a first down, dropped the ball. And then Mark Ingram, did you see the Mark Ingram?
It was so bad. Oh my
That
god.
was the worst shit I've ever saw.
I don't know what that
He had the
was.
first down and didn't get it. And I have a group chat with my friends who are big Saints fans, and I texted. I was like, Did you see Mark Ingram?" And they were like, "Yeah." I was like, "I didn't know if anyone noticed." So I'm like, maybe he got the first down, and I'm just crazy. Nope, it was 3rd and 1, and we threw a pass instead of going for it on just running. I would have rather run the ball on 3rd down and then run the ball again on 4th down and just go for it. Just go for it. Dennis Allen has not been going for it.
No, he is a defensive coordinator. He should not be head coach. The defense, like
he settles. Yeah, he settles for field goals, and that's it. And that's not going to win you games all the time. You had that game won with field goals or without, but just the way we played it was absolutely terrible,
awful.
But getting away from that, I just want to talk about how freaking terrible these past few weeks have been as far as sports. But yeah, who do you think's gonna Jaden Daniels is healthy? Do you think he starts against the bowl game versus Purdue?
I don't know. I don't know if I want him to is a thing, even if he is healthy, because I would rather him not get hurt, possibly worse for next season. I mean, from what I saw, he was sitting out the entire week of practice. So you got Garrett Nussmeier probably taking first team reps, preparing for this game every practice. It's just like it's more of a question: will Jaden Daniels, even if he is healthy, be fully prepared for the game over Nussmeier?
Right, and you said that too. So one of the things I saw is when you're getting the ball to your receivers. This has been a problem with receivers. Receivers aren't able to touch the ball. They lose. They get discouraged, etc. You saw it with Odell Beckham and the Browns.
Yeah.
One of the main thing is Baker was not getting the ball to Odell, and he was excuse me, he was open a lot. Same thing with Jaden Daniels and some of these receivers. You saw the excitement and the just the pure energy in the receivers when Nussmeier was getting it downfield to them. Yep. You just saw how good LSU's receiving core is when Nussmeier was getting that ball downfield. I mean, they were freaking dominating Georgia's defensive backs. I mean, yes, you're losing Jare Jenkins. Who else are we losing more receivers besides Jare?
Jack Besh entered
Jack
the transfer
Besh.
portal.
But Jack Besh was hurt for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
And he didn't do much. So
no, we got wide receivers coming in too. We got Shelton Sampson from Catholic High. We got Jalen Brown, another 4-star wide receiver coming in. So
Kirkland's coming back. Kirkland's a really fast receiver. He was hurt this year.
Brian Thomas Jr. will be playing next year.
So
we're pretty set.
Yeah, you're not losing that many receivers. Plus, you're gaining some back. So with that, you have one of the best receiving cores in college football. So do you utilize that with Jaden Daniels or Garrett Nussmeier? And another thing with Jaden Daniels is, and this is not out of the question, does Jaden Daniels even stay at LSU? Yes, he to bring this point up, he got a deal with Gordon McKernan, I think a month or two ago. So it's a pretty new NIL deal. So that could potentially keep him. But you have stuff like that. But you still have the possibility that he goes to the draft and just decides, you know what, I'm gonna go to the NFL, whether I'm a backup or not, start making some money. Because even though he isn't, 100% in his performance, and he might not be totally ready for NFL, he's had a lot of experience. And to Jaden's credit, this is a totally different offense than what he's used to from Arizona State. And he's had that few years at Arizona State for experience. And then he's had that step up to SEC football. And he went 9-3 the regular season, and then had that loss against Georgia. But you also have to keep that in question, because if Jane Daniels leaves, I believe Nussmeier just started. There's been a lot of talk about Walker Howard, which maybe I'm missing out on something, but I feel like you go with Nussmeier for sure, at least for now,
Yeah.
depending on how he performs next season. But
Yeah, because Walker Howard, he'll have so much eligibility left. He's a redshirt freshman, so he'll still technically be a freshman by the football standards next year. So he'll have a lot of time left, and that's time Nussmeier doesn't get. So I see Nussmeier getting those minutes as the starting quarterback if it comes down to those two.
yeah, and let Walker Howard learn the offense.
Let him develop.
Let him. Some of the best quarterbacks have been quarterbacks who develop under other quarterbacks and watch and learn. Even though a guy might be a year or two older than you, you can still learn from him. And you see in the NFL all the time, these quarterbacks who learn from quarterbacks like Tom Brady or Drew Brees. You saw it with Winston and the Saints, and even Teddy Bridgewater, to be able to when Drew Brees was hurt, get those come in and start for the Saints, and he looked good. Same with Jameis Winston until his back injury. Jameis Winston looked really good, and and all the quarterbacks that came from Tom Brady. You just have stuff like that. So not to get off track, but so let Walker Howard, he's a freshman, let him develop and let this offense develop, because this is your first year. I think people are expecting too much from LSU, especially if you're like an occasional. I call it like an occasional fan. Like, you watch games every Saturday, but you don't really do your research. You don't really look at the analytics, the scores, the box scores, the rush yards, the passing yards, completion percentage, QB rating, stuff like that. But so a lot of those occasional fans just expect the team to be outstanding every year.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you replace your staff this year. You get new coaches. You got new players. Some new players. You got a new quarterback, a new system of running things, and you went 9-3 in the regular season. Say you beat Florida State. Say you beat you beat Texas A&M in those games like that. That's 11-1 in the regular season, which they got close to. So, I mean, you had that potential. So LSU shouldn't have been as good as they were.
Not
and
nearly.
and they made it through. They made it through to 9-3, and you had a couple games that were close here and there that we probably could have won, like Florida State, like well, Texas A&M wasn't close, but we still should have won. But so LSU did exceptionally well for what they had to do. Usually it takes, and I've said this in previous videos, but usually it takes 2 years, sometimes 3, for a team to get back up on their feet, especially after replacing so much. You got a new head coach, offense coordinator, all that kind of stuff. So, I thought LSU did exceptionally well, and you're setting yourself up this year to be a potential playoff contender next year, especially now that don't the playoffs isn't it 12 teams next year?
I think it's in 2024 it becomes a 12-team playoff.
Oh shoot, I thought it was next year. I wish it was next year.
Me
But but even with that, you're still a playoff contender next year, especially now that LSU's probably going to control the West. Nick Saban in Alabama is always going to give you a hard time, but most people will admit that Georgia is the new Alabama in some standards. So if LSU can keep just a leg ahead of Alabama, they can run the West and go to the SEC championship most of the year, mostly every year. But you just have that potential, and you're already next year you're setting yourself up to go to the playoffs, which is crazy considering this team is so brand new.
Yeah, I agree. We also, we didn't even have a roster full of scholarship players, and still going 9-4 in the SEC with something like that is phenomenal to me. Along with a lot of people didn't think Brian Kelly could do it in the SEC. They criticized him coming down. A lot of
Yeah,
people
but
were
made fun of
super
him,
upset.
criticized him,
Yep.
and look what he's done with recruiting. He's an
Said
exceptional
he can't,
recruiter.
said he can't win the big games, but he's coming. No offense to Notre Dame, he's coming to Notre Dame, who is there. It's so hard to get great players at Notre Dame because of how hard it is to get into Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But now you're coming down to a school where like football is the number one priority in Louisiana, without a doubt. So they don't really care as much at all. So it's easier to go and get those big name, big time players that are going to do it for you. And through all the criticism, it seemed like all of the players got on board with Brian Kelly, even when the fans weren't, even when the media wasn't. It seemed like this team was so together with him, like that they had such a drive to win and prove people wrong. And I think that really, really drove this season for us.
Yeah. And to your point, like with the drive to win and trying to come back, that's something I haven't seen from an LSU team in so long.
Yeah.
And including the 2019. 2019 was just, they were so damn good that you couldn't beat them. But like with other LSU teams in the past, one thing that I saw is once something bad happened, you kind of gave up. But with this team, no matter what happened, they went and they battled, whether they won or lost. So and like you said, Brian Kelly he has the freedom to recruit whatever the hell he wants. Texas is your next door neighbor. Texas is huge with football and recruiting. Louisiana, you got some of your best players.
Yep.
That go to Georgia from Louisiana and go to Alabama from Louisiana. So
Florida too.
Run recruiting table in the South and in Louisiana, especially, and you can continue to have, and finding those players, finding those 2 stars that are exceptional. I'm pretty sure, wasn't Justin Jefferson a 2-star? All right.
Justin Jefferson, I believe, was either a 2 or 3 star.
So someone that was overlooked by other teams, and now he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Jamar Chase, yeah, was a 5-star. He grew, but like LSU just has a knack for getting such a good receiving core. Some of the best receivers in the NFL come from LSU. So just give him another year, let him recruit, and then you're still talking about potentially going to the playoffs, but he is going to run the table with recruiting these next couple years. I mean, he knows what he's doing as far as recruiting. He knows what it is to be in a winning team, in my opinion. So I don't know if you watched my video, but one of the I reacted to some commentators, and it was 3 of them. It was I forget their names, but there was a guy. He said that Georgia in the next 10 years will have the most national championship. The lady said USC, which I heavily criticized because now that's funny because look what happened to USC.
I do not agree with that at all.
USC and Utah breaks USC in half.
Yep.
After Utah lost to Florida this season, who else did Utah lose to? They were a 3-loss team coming into that game, so they lost. But and she said USC, which was just stupid.
Yeah. Utah beat them twice.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. They beat USC twice this year. I mean, yeah.
Yep.
So and then one guy said LSU, and I think that has some validity to it. I think it's gonna be LSU and Georgia fighting for almost every year. And the playoffs will get crazier and it'll be more entertaining. Like, think about with March Madness, you have that tournament style that everyone loves, tuned into. If you expand upon that in college football, not only bringing in more money, you're bringing in more views and just the entertainment of it. Think about like playoffs starting in the next couple weeks, and you got 12-team playoffs. I don't know how the hell they're gonna do this, but say you get your higher seed than who you're playing, you get home field advantage, so you get an extra home game. Say LSU versus, I don't know, a team like USC, and LSU's to I guess let's say LSU's 4 in the country,
Yeah.
and USC's 8. So now you have LSU, a 4 seed, playing an 8 seed in the college football playoffs, which is brand new, which is going to be so entertaining to watch. But
It's gonna be so
it
fun.
extends your season and also gives teams a better chance, and because the committee's definitely not perfect. They're far from it. In your like with being able to choose only 4 teams, it just you don't get to see. There's been
Yeah.
times when, let's say, and I'm not even saying recent, but like let's just say a 3-loss or a 2-loss Auburn team has been better than a undefeated Ohio State or undefeated Oklahoma. But since they had those few losses on their record, that Auburn team hasn't been able to go in the playoffs. Now you're gonna have teams like that, that have 3 losses or 2, maybe in 4. I don't know if they would have 4 losses by then, but let's just say max 3 losses. Now that those teams are gonna have a chance to make it into the college football playoffs, which is exciting for me. I'm glad they're extending
Yeah.
extending it.
Because
It just makes sense.
even this season, there's been the argument people were having about if Alabama should have been over TCU, which I mean, I agree Alabama's probably the better team, but I think TCU should have been in over them just because of how they've played this season. But now with the 12-team
That
playoff,
in you got to look at how, like, I know what you're trying to talk about the 12-team playoffs, but getting to your point about Alabama, beat no one. They lost.
no, I
They
agree.
lost to an LSU team, and I'm an LSU fan, obviously. They lost to an LSU team who got smacked by Texas A&M, who got smacked by Georgia, who
Yeah.
got smacked by Tennessee. Alabama also lost to Tennessee, and then the only team you beat was the only solid team in Texas the team I'm talking about is a 4-loss team,
Yeah.
and you beat them. Well, I think they beat Texas like by 1 point. So
Yeah,
you
barely.
had you
Without their starting quarterback.
yeah, but you had that's all you had. That's all you had in the name Alabama. But besides that, you didn't have anything else. So, but I'll let you get back to your point about that.
Yeah, but I think, seeing the 12-team playoff, you no longer have that argument, and I don't know. I really like it. I think people are gonna now try to argue though, well, this number 13 team should be a number 12, which is just like it's gonna get stupid again. I just
Yeah,
hope.
there's gonna be shit like that, but it
Yeah,
lessens it
I
because
agree.
now instead of TCU fans complaining or USC fans complaining about, oh, LSU lost to this team or LSU lost,
Yeah,
like they'll still get in, but at a lower seed than LSU, even if LSU did lose to a
I
certain
think
team.
I
Because
think 12 is perfect. There's still gonna be blowouts because teams like Tulane would be playing Ohio State or something like that, and I don't know. I don't think Tulane is really gonna put up a big fight against a team like Ohio State. There's still gonna be blowouts in the 12-team playoff, but it gives those teams a chance to
like
prove
yeah, and
something.
even with this 4-team, the 4-team playoff, TCU is gonna get smacked.
Yeah, probably. I hope not, but probably.
Ohio State is gonna get smacked. Like it's just not gonna be close. But Georgia and Michigan have shown to be the best teams in college football.
Yeah.
Um, if you wanted to make it easier, they could just play for the national championship tomorrow because that's gonna be the result.
Agree.
But there hasn't, and I talked about this, and I think I talked about this in my last video, but there hasn't been a team that I've looked at this year and said this is the best team in college football without a shadow of doubt. I mean, it's kind of similar with last year, but Georgia obviously has been the dominant team this year.
Without a doubt.
But they've had troubles along the way, like I said, with Kentucky or
Yeah,
Missouri.
for sure.
And I just haven't seen like, okay, Georgia's better than Michigan or Michigan's better than Georgia. It's kind of been, I guess, that's kind of be a toss up. I hope that game's close.
Yeah.
I hope Michigan fights. I think they are, but and then Michigan crushed Ohio State. So
I was about to say the same thing.
yeah. So like, I think Michigan's gonna have a chance. I don't think it'll be a kind of toss up between those two. But
Yeah, with the way Michigan beat Ohio State, it gives me a hope that
Yeah.
the Georgia Michigan game's gonna be really good.
yeah, hopefully. I'm trying to think if I had. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I mean, unless you want to talk about the upcoming bowl game, nothing really.
So did we talk about I'm trying to think who's starting? You think Nuss is starting that game? Even if
Like I said-
Jaden's healthy?
Like I said earlier, I definitely think it's a chance that Nuss starts. I don't know.
When's
It's
that
really-
game? When's the date for that game? Check.
I think it's in 2 weeks around then.
Check. But yeah, I think in my opinion, if Jaden starts, I think it could potentially mean that he's leaving just because let's see. Pulling up to see when so January 2nd.
Okay.
So you still have almost a month to get healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. He'll.
But
I see him
there's a
starting.
potential there that he might be starting because he's leaving, but there's also that potential well he's just starting because he's a starting quarterback. But if he doesn't start, I think that's a sure signal that he's staying only because they might just be saving him for next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of my own theory, but
My only
there's like a
thing-
lot of ways to think about it.
if he doesn't leave and if he improves in the way that he did, I mean, coming from ASU, he had a 10 touchdown, 10 interception season. And he turned that around and came here 16 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. If you have another improvement, maybe not that drastic, but something like that, I don't know. It might be something that you want to stay for to really boost your draft stock.
And like you said with the intercept, and I don't remember the 2 other interceptions. I forget the other 2, but his 3rd interception was off the helmet of Jack Besh's head. Like it hit Jack Besh in the head, bounced off another.
It was ridiculous.
So it's like even that really hard to count as an interception. So
I agree.
he's kept the but with that, he has had trouble forcing the ball downfield. And you literally instantly when they put Nussmeier in, you saw him trying to force balls down the field, whether they were risky or not. Sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes it's bad.
Yeah,
but
with it being risky, the only thing I can give to Jaden's credit with not pushing down the field like that. Nussmeier had nothing to lose when he came in that game. It was a lost game. It was more just a game come in and show what you could do for Nussmeier.
Right,
and Daniels didn't really get that opportunity.
Yeah, that is a great point. He was just throwing to throw the ball, and Georgia kind of knew they had the game by then anyway. So the real test is gonna come again in the spring if Jaden Daniels stays. Spring and summer where they're gonna have a QB battle again, and we'll see how that goes. But LSU's not short on QBs. If you have
not at
noticed.
all. Colin Hurley's coming in. Ricky Collins is coming in. We're good.
I think we are gonna have, without a shadow of a doubt, a really good QB room.
This is the first time I think since my conception and being an LSU fan that I've been like, this is a good LSU QB room.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had. See, with Les Miles should have been first of all fired way before he was. LSU hasn't, if you think about it, since the Saban era, LSU hasn't had an actual football coach like Brian Kelly.
Not at all.
You had with Coach O, the few years he was here.
He was a player's coach.
He was just the face of LSU. Like he didn't do anything. He was just the face. Like he was just like the Canes guy, the guy you saw on the signs at Canes, the guy with the funny voice,
He fit the culture of
Yeah.
LSU at the time, and people were afraid that Brian Kelly was going to come and not match that culture. But Brian Kelly came and he reshaped the culture to be 10 times better than what it was when Coach O was here.
I mean, he is a national coach. He knows what he's doing. He's gonna win. He's coming here to win. But you just didn't see that with Les Miles, and you didn't see him recruiting that many quarterbacks. I mean, you had strong running back room because that's what Les Miles wanted to do. He wanted to run it, in your face. But college football in Alabama, especially, adapted to a different type of football. Alabama was trying new things out in the passing game and spread offense, and they that's Nick Saban just brought in that new culture to college football, and it's something that Les Miles never wanted to try and introduce, and he was living in the past while Nick Saban was really shaping the future for college football. And now you see these teams that are finally catching up to that. Like you see Georgia and in these teams that in LSU as well that are just kind of catching up to that. And now Saban is really struggling now. But it's something Les Miles don't want to try out, and you just had Les Miles for a while. And you had winning seasons, but you didn't have national championship seasons. And I think he should have been fired. So with Brian Kelly now, you have, and that my point is, you have an actual coach who knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I don't know much about Purdue. I don't know about you. Do you have anything on Purdue?
I mean, I know a little bit. I think my main concern with Purdue is going to be their running back. He's not the best running back in the league, but we've shown that we can't stop the run. He's got 920 yards in the season, and a 5-yard average. So I don't know. I feel like that's a scary thing for me, going into this LSU game.
If LSU can stop the run, and should they can stop the run, obviously that's something you want to see. You want to see LSU advance and get better, because this season has been a roller coaster as far as LSU getting better and then worse and better than worse. But yeah. So I haven't seen. I'm going off what you're saying. I haven't seen much on Purdue in their running back, but sorry, but I was just thought of something and it made me laugh. Fuck.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I haven't seen much. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need you to talk for a second.
You're good. You're good. For LSU's offense also going in that Purdue game, they've got a great, I think, safety in Cam Allen with 3 interceptions on the season, and 34 solo tackles. So I think that's another thing that if we're starting a guy like Nussmeier, we need to watch out for. Just don't let Nussmeier get too hot of a hand and throw it straight to a guy like Cam Allen.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah, if he's starting, like you said, but
yeah.
Running backs, the running back you were talking about, what's his name?
Devin Maccabee.
So, obviously, and one thing I want to talk about is you haven't really seen after that Arkansas, Harold Perkins has been quiet.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see him more involved with the running game, because he's almost that guy that you put in for a QB spy, and besides that, he hasn't really done much other. So if he can be more,
the flu again.
Yeah, I know. If he can be more involved in the run game, I'd like to see him make some stops. Him and Greg Penn. But yeah, like you show, they need to show maturity in stopping the run game. Sorry, I keep on thinking this.
No, you're good.
I'll tell you later. But yeah, we need to show maturity in stopping the run game, because it's gonna come back to bite you again in next season. It's not something that's gonna go away. Yeah. And after LSU got run all over by Texas A&M, you obviously saw Georgia take advantage of it. And if Purdue, like you said, has that good running back, they're gonna try to do the same. So
It is our biggest glaring weakness, probably along with the fact that we do not cover the middle of the field.
yeah. Oh my lord.
Gee.
I made a tweet about that
It's so bad.
during the game. I was like,
Brock Bowers was catching every single pass in the middle of the field. It was awful.
I'm like, what the hell? It's been LSU's nightmare. Slants and post
Since the
routes, and
FSU game.
I mean, you have to stop. You have to cover the middle of the field. I don't understand. If you put, I understand your middle linebacker a lot of the time can be someone like Harold Perkins, who's the spy. But I'd rather if you don't want to put Harold Perkins in coverage, I'd rather someone you put in coverage, a middle linebacker. Let's just say Baskerville or whatever. I forget how they do the linebackers, but keep a linebacker in the middle of the field and make sure that they or safety out there. I just want someone covering the middle of the field, and you didn't see it a lot. And like you said, Georgia's tight ends and receivers killed us in the middle of the field, and I'm like, it's just it was for yards we were giving them, really.
And even when we did cover the middle of the field, if we're not getting into the pocket quick for the sack, give that quarterback 10 seconds. We just leave our men. We leave our men when they have too much time. It's ridiculous.
Or like in some cases, like especially during the Alabama game, I don't remember if you remember that play where they were about to get to Bryce Young, and for some reason the safeties came up.
Yep.
As if they were gonna try, and then Bryce Young threw that easy touchdown, and I'm like, we're just too wide open. I'm like, you never can leave your assignment, no matter what, until you hear that whistle blow. But yeah, and that's another thing I didn't see is a lot of pressure on Stetson Bennett. Georgia did a really good job at defending LSU's
great.
pass rush. I mean, there was just really nothing there. But so we're at 46. I can stop here, or if you have anything else to add, you can add it.
I'm all good. It's really up to you now.
So if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you want more videos like this, where I'm talking to friends, or and I can even add more people too. It might not just be 2. I could add 3 people, 4, whatever. Leave a comment down below. Leave a like. Support the video. If you want to subscribe, if you think about subscribing, subscribe. Helps out. Everything helps. Leave me a comment. If you have a question or even a statement, I like to answer comments. Look at them. Just whatever. But yeah, I think we're gonna stop for that for now. I'll make another video sometime next week, maybe talking about the transfer portal, which is a big topic right now, or in LSU's future. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I would thank Josh for coming in on the show, and
Thank you for having me.
no problem, and putting some input. I mean, I thought this episode went pretty smooth, besides from the part where I was laughing, but
Yeah.
but I'm about to tell you that you'll go laugh. But yeah, thank you for watching, and as always, go Tigers.